Welcome back to the deep dive. Today
Yes.
we're going deep on tax-free retirement planning.
Ooh, yeah, fun stuff.
Oh, it is. It is. And, we've got a really fascinating set of FAQs from a book all about this.
Right.
And it seems like you're really interested in
Yeah.
some of the less conventional strategies
Yeah.
and maybe even a little bit skeptical
Right.
about whether a truly tax-free retirement is even possible.
Yeah.
So let's dive in and see what we can find out.
Yeah, these are really, really thought-provoking questions. What's so interesting to me is that
Okay.
there are so many people out there that think that minimizing taxes is somehow unethical or only for like the super rich.
Right, right.
But the truth is, it's something that everyone should consider.
Absolutely. And actually, one of the FAQs even quotes Judge Learned Hand on this very issue.
Okay.
He said, "There is nothing sinister in so arranging one's affairs as to keep taxes as low as possible. Everybody does so, rich or poor."
Wow.
So right off the bat, this source is kind of challenging some of those common misconceptions.
Yeah.
But where do we even begin?
Mm.
I mean, is it ever too late to start thinking about a tax-free retirement?
You know, the book argues that age isn't really the deciding factor here. It really comes down to your outlook on taxes. So if you believe they're likely to be higher in the future, wouldn't it be smart to pay at today's lower rates?
It's like a tax sale.
Yeah,
Buy low, sell high.
exactly.
But in this case, it's about strategically timing when you pay those taxes.
Mm-hmm.
But what about people who are like, hey, I'm happy to pay my fair share?
Right.
Is there a conflict between minimizing taxes and being a responsible citizen?
Well, I mean, I think Judge Learned Hand's statement kind of addresses that directly.
Okay.
He also said, anyone may so arrange his affairs that his taxes shall be as low as possible. He is not bound to choose that pattern which will best pay the Treasury. There is not even a patriotic duty to increase one's taxes. So the key takeaway is doing so within the bounds of the law. It's not about evading taxes. It's about, just like any savvy business owner, using the tax code to your advantage.
Yeah, it's like playing the game strategically,
Yes.
not trying to cheat the system.
Right.
But here's where things get a little bit spicy, I guess.
Okay.
The book argues that traditional financial advisors, those guys, they might not always be thrilled
Interesting.
about their clients aiming for a completely tax-free retirement.
Okay.
Why would that be?
Well, think about their business model for a second. So many of these advisors, they earn a percentage of the assets that they manage. If you shift a big chunk of your savings into a tax-free bucket, something like a Roth IRA, that's less money under their management.
Right.
Which could potentially lead to, lower fees for them.
So their incentives might not always align perfectly with yours.
Yeah.
That's an important thing to think about.
It is a very crucial question when you're choosing an advisor. You want to find someone who understands your goals, is willing to explore all those options, even if it means, that it might not maximize their own fees.
But like finding a doctor who prioritizes your health over ordering expensive tests. You want someone who's in it for the right reason.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've kind of established that minimizing taxes is legal.
Yes.
It's ethical.
It is.
And we might need to be a little bit discerning when we're choosing financial advice.
Yeah.
So let's actually dive into some of these specific strategies that this book outlines.
All right.
It talks about dividing your assets into three main buckets.
Yeah, the author categorizes them as taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free.
Love it.
So each bucket kind of has its own set of rules and potential advantages.
So let's start with the taxable bucket. What kinds of assets usually end up in this category?
Well, typically your taxable bucket includes things like your checking and savings accounts, brokerage accounts, and maybe even a rental property if you have one.
Okay.
One of the biggest pitfalls I see people encounter with their taxable bucket is unexpected inheritances.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you might carefully plan out your taxable assets and then suddenly, bam, a large inheritance throws off your whole strategy.
Yeah, it's like getting a surprise tax bill.
It is.
The book also cautions against keeping more than 6 months' worth of income in this bucket, even for emergencies. Why is that?
Think of it like this. Your taxable bucket is the most vulnerable to taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Holding more than you really need there can push you into a higher tax bracket and even impact how much of your Social Security benefits get taxed later on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's all interconnected.
So it's a balancing act. Enough to cover those emergencies, but not so much that it triggers those unnecessary taxes.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to the tax-deferred bucket. This is where things like traditional 401ks and IRAs live.
Precisely. And these accounts offer that nice tax deduction up front,
Right.
but you will pay taxes on those withdrawals in retirement.
Right. And conventional wisdom says
Mm-hmm.
always contribute enough to that 401k to get the full employer match.
Oh, yeah, free money.
Free money, right.
Yeah.
But this source raises kind of a thought-provoking question.
Okay.
Are there ever times when that might not be the best move?
It's fascinating because the answer really isn't always clear-cut.
Right.
So while the 401k match feels like free money, you're getting that match from your employer.
Yeah.
Aggressively saving in these accounts could lead to larger required minimum distributions, RMDs, later on.
Okay.
And those RMDs, they could push you into a higher tax bracket in retirement and even make a portion of your Social Security benefits taxable.
So even free money can come with strings attached.
It can.
How do you figure out if chasing that match is truly the best strategy for you?
It comes down to your individual goals and your tax situation.
Okay.
If your number one goal is to minimize taxes in retirement, it might be worth exploring other options, even if it means you sacrifice a small match in the short term.
So it's about playing the long game.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about everyone's favorite tax-free haven, the Roth IRA.
Ooh, yeah.
But can we really trust the government not to change the rules down the line? I mean, they could always decide to start taxing Roth distributions, right?
That's a very valid concern.
Yeah.
The source acknowledges this possibility, but it argues that taxing Roth distributions after contributions have already been taxed,
Right.
it would be kind of unprecedented. It would also be incredibly unpopular.
Yeah. Politically speaking,
Very much so.
that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
But there's still that 5-year rule for Roth IRAs. Can you explain that one?
Yeah, this rule basically dictates when you can access the earnings in your Roth IRA without penalty. So you can always withdraw your contributions, the money you put in, tax and penalty free.
Okay.
But to access those earnings penalty free, you'll need to wait 5 years from when you made that initial contribution or until you reach age 59 and a half, whichever comes later.
Got it.
Yeah.
So even with a Roth, there's a bit of a waiting game for those earnings. What about Roth conversions? A lot of people talking about those these days.
Yeah, Roth conversions basically involve moving money from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA.
Okay.
It's a way to potentially pay taxes now at a lower rate
Mm-hmm.
and enjoy tax-free growth and withdrawals in the future.
And there's a 5-year rule for conversions too, right?
Yes, but it works a little differently.
Okay.
So for conversions, that 5-year rule applies to both contributions and earnings, but only for those made before you turn 59 and a half.
Okay.
So if you convert after that age, you can access both contributions and earnings immediately. No penalty.
So that 5-year rule can be a little bit of a maze.
It can be a little confusing.
Depending on your age, whether you're talking about contributions or earnings.
Exactly.
What about those income limitations I used to hear about for Roth IRAs?
Right.
Can anyone do a Roth conversion now?
That's a key point. They removed those income limitations for conversions way back in 2010.
Oh, wow.
So now it's a strategy that's available to a much wider range of people, regardless of their income level.
That's a game changer.
It is.
But how does someone decide how quickly to convert to a Roth?
Oh.
I mean, is it better to do it all at once or kind of spread it out?
That's where the real art of tax planning comes in.
Okay.
It's about finding that sweet spot, between taking advantage of today's potentially lower tax rates
Right.
and avoiding being pushed into a significantly higher tax bracket by converting too much at once.
So it's a balancing act.
It is.
Now, are there ever situations where converting your entire IRA to a Roth in a single year might make sense?
There are, actually.
Right.
The source highlights 2 scenarios where this could be advantageous. The first is if your IRA is relatively small and converting it all wouldn't bump you into a much higher tax bracket.
Got it.
The second is if you anticipate being in the highest marginal tax bracket both now and in retirement. In that case, you might as well just convert as much as possible while you're paying the highest rate anyway, especially if you think that rate might climb even higher in the future.
So, again, it's about making strategic decisions.
Exactly.
Based on your current and projected tax situation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's shift gears now to what might be the most intriguing and perhaps misunderstood piece of the puzzle.
Right.
The LRP, or Life Insurance Retirement Plan.
Yes, the LRP.
This one seems to generate a lot of curiosity,
Yeah.
but also a lot of skepticism.
It's definitely an unconventional approach.
Yeah.
What's really fascinating is that it combines the benefits of life insurance
Okay.
with the potential for tax-free retirement income.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty of how a LARP works,
Yeah.
let's address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Expenses.
Okay.
What are the typical costs associated with this type of plan?
Well, the primary expense is the cost of insurance, similar to the premiums you'd pay for a traditional life insurance policy.
Yeah.
However, this source argues that over the life of the plan,
Okay.
these costs are comparable to the combined expenses of a 401k, which, includes those fees for money managers, financial advisors, administrators, all of that.
But with a LARP, at least you're getting a life insurance benefit as part of the package.
Exactly. It's not just a fee, it's buying you something tangible, something that can provide, that financial security for your loved ones.
Right, okay. But one of the biggest questions people have is about liquidity.
Mm-hmm.
How soon can you access your money in a LARP? Because, having access to your funds
Right.
when you need them,
Yeah,
it's a major concern in retirement.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, like 401k, LARPs typically have what's called a surrender period or a vesting schedule in those early years to protect the insurance company's initial investment.
Right.
But it's essential to remember that these plans are designed for long-term growth.
Okay.
They're not meant to be short-term savings accounts.
Okay, patience is key.
Yeah.
But what happens if someone runs out of money in their LRP before they die?
Ooh,
I mean, that seems like a worst-case scenario.
it is.
Yeah.
The source really emphasizes that this is something to avoid at all costs.
Right.
If there's not at least $1 remaining in that LRP at death.
Okay.
The IRS could view it as not being a legitimate life insurance contract,
Hmm.
and all those taxes you deferred could come due for your beneficiaries.
Yikes, that's a hefty tax bill.
It is.
You don't want to leave that to your loved ones.
Nope.
So how can you make sure you don't deplete that account prematurely?
Well, a lot of LRPs offer what's called an overloan protection rider,
Okay.
which basically acts as a safeguard
Got it.
against completely draining the account.
So there are safety nets built in.
There are.
Okay, now for the million-dollar question. How are distributions from a LIRP actually tax-free?
Right.
Walk us through the magic.
All right. So the key is taking the money out as a loan
Okay.
rather than a traditional withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take a loan, it's not considered income by the IRS because they're assuming you're going to eventually repay it.
So you're essentially borrowing from your own future self.
Precisely. So let's say you need $10,000, right?
Okay.
You'd contact the insurance company.
Mm-hmm.
They would then move $10,000 from your LIRP's growth account into what's called a separate collateral account.
Okay.
And then they would issue you a loan for $10,000 from their own funds.
Okay.
The interest that they charge you is often the same rate that they're crediting to your collateral account.
Okay.
So it essentially washes out.
That's pretty slick.
It is a pretty cool strategy.
But how soon can you start taking these loans?
It really depends on the specific company and policy.
Right.
But some will allow it as early as the first day of the 6th year.
Okay, so there's a little bit of a waiting period.
There is.
What if you need to access funds before those loans become available?
You can typically withdraw your contributions, which is your basis, without penalty or taxes.
So there is some flexibility there.
There is.
Okay, now you mentioned something about different death benefit options.
Oh, yeah.
Within a LIRP, can you explain those?
Yeah, so there's two main options.
Okay.
Option 1 works like this. As the cash value in your account grows, the amount of life insurance coverage you need decreases.
Okay.
So the death benefit actually stays level, but the ratio of cash value to insurance coverage shifts over time.
So it's like the insurance component is gradually phasing out
Exactly.
as your cash value builds.
Right.
Okay, cool.
With option 2, the amount of life insurance you're paying for actually stays the same.
Okay.
So as your cash value grows, your overall death benefit actually increases.
So option 2 offers a potentially larger payout
Right.
to your beneficiaries.
Yeah.
Okay, what about contribution limits? Are there caps on how much you can put into a LIRP each year?
Yeah, this is where things get a little bit interesting.
Okay.
The IRS ties those contribution limits to the death benefit amount.
Okay.
So the larger the death benefit, the more you can contribute. But it's the insurance companies, not the IRS, that actually set those limits.
So it's a little bit of a dance between the IRS rules and the insurance company policies.
It is.
What's a typical limit they might set?
A common limit is around 25 times your annual salary, adjusted for age.
Okay.
So let's say you're 45 and making $100,000 a year. The insurance company might allow a death benefit as high as $2,500,000.
Wow, that's a lot of coverage.
It is.
What would that translate to in terms of annual contributions?
In that scenario, you might be able to contribute as much as $170,000 per year.
Wow. That's a far cry from the contribution limits of a traditional IRA.
It is. It is.
So for people with high incomes, this could be a powerful tool.
Very powerful.
But what if you hit a financial rough patch and can't make your LRP contributions for a while?
Right.
Do you lose everything?
Not at all. As long as there's enough money in your surrender value to cover the policy expenses,
Okay.
you can actually temporarily pause your contributions without jeopardizing the policy.
So it's more flexible than people might assume.
It is.
What about the opposite scenario? You get like a big bonus from work. Can you just dump it all in your LRP at once?
You can, but it might not be the most strategic move.
Okay.
The IRS wants to see those contributions spread out over time, not all at once.
So there's a strategy to how you fund it as well.
There is.
Okay, now, let's address the biggest concern I think people have with LRPs.
Yeah.
The possibility of the IRS changing the rules. I mean, they've done it before, right?
They have, but the source actually points out that historically, when they've changed the rules,
Okay.
they've included what are called grandfather clauses,
Okay.
which allow existing LRP holders to continue operating under those old rules.
So there's some precedent for protecting existing plans,
There is.
which is reassuring.
Yeah.
What about those loans we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
The source clarifies that the 0% interest rate
Mm-hmm.
isn't technically 0%, but it still seems like a pretty sweet deal. Why does the IRS even allow this?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the IRS is primarily concerned with ensuring
Okay.
that the interest rate charged is reasonable,
Right.
and that it reflects what's called an arm's length transaction between you and the insurance company.
Okay.
They're not really as focused on the internal mechanics of how that insurance company handles the collateral account.
So they're looking at the big picture,
Exactly.
not necessarily the fine print.
Right. And some companies, they structure the policy so that the interest that's credited to your collateral account
Okay.
matches the interest that's charged on the loan,
Mm-hmm.
effectively creating a 0% net cost for the policyholder.
Okay, so it's all above board.
It is.
All right, now some LIRPs offer what's called a long-term care rider.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is that, and how does it work?
This is a valuable feature, for some people.
Yeah.
If you become unable to perform 2 of the 6 activities of daily living,
Okay.
like bathing or dressing yourself, and a doctor verifies this,
Right.
the insurance company will let you access a portion of your death benefit to cover those long-term care expenses.
So it's like an advance on your death benefit,
Yeah,
specifically earmarked for long-term care. That's a great safety net.
it is.
But choosing a life insurance company for a LIRP, that's a big decision.
Yeah.
How can someone be sure the company they choose will be around for the long haul?
Financial strength ratings are absolutely crucial.
Okay.
You want to make sure you're partnering with a reputable company, one that has a proven track record of financial stability.
Yeah.
So do your due diligence, make sure you're comfortable with the company's long-term prospects.
So do your research and choose wisely.
Yeah.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Taxable, tax-deferred, tax-free. Those buckets definitely hold a lot of nuances.
They do.
And then there's the LIRP, which seems like it has its own set of complexities.
It does.
Where do we go from here?
Well, it's true. There's a lot to consider. But what we've done today is we've laid the foundation.
Okay.
We've introduced those key concepts.
Mm-hmm.
We've highlighted some of those potential pitfalls and advantages of each approach.
So what's the next step for our listener
Mm-hmm.
who's trying to create a tax-free retirement plan?
The key is to personalize this information.
Okay.
So now that we kind of have a grasp of the basics,
Right.
we can start to apply these concepts to your specific situation, explore how these different strategies might work together,
Yeah.
and ultimately help you build a plan that really aligns with your goals.
I'm excited to dive into that.
Me too. This is where it gets fun.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Absolutely.
So we're going to take a quick break and then come back ready to personalize these strategies.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork, explored those 3 retirement buckets, and even dipped our toes into the fascinating world of LRPs. But now let's get down to brass tacks. How can all of this knowledge actually translate into a plan for you?
Right. That's the exciting part, right? We've got all the tools laid out. Now it's about assembling them in a way that makes sense for, your unique circumstances.
Okay, so let's go back to those buckets for a second. We talked about the potential drawbacks of keeping too much in the taxable bucket. especially when it comes to things like inheritances and Social Security taxation. But what if someone is already retired? Do those same rules still apply?
Absolutely. In fact, I'd say managing that taxable bucket becomes even more crucial in retirement because, you're generally living on a fixed income. And you want to make sure you're withdrawing money strategically to minimize taxes and avoid any surprises from those pesky RMDs.
So even if you're already retired, there's still room for optimization. Now, when it comes to the tax-deferred bucket, you mentioned that sometimes foregoing the 401k match might be the better move, especially if minimizing taxes in retirement is the top priority. But how does someone actually make that decision? It feels counterintuitive to say no to free money.
It is, it's tough, but it definitely requires careful consideration. I'd say the first step is to project your income needs in retirement and estimate how much you'll be withdrawing from those tax-deferred accounts. Then factor in potential Social Security benefits and any other income sources you might have. And if it looks like those withdrawals are likely to push you into a higher tax bracket or make a portion of your Social Security taxable, it might be worth exploring alternatives.
So it's about looking at the big picture, not just the immediate gratification of that match. Now, Roth IRAs seem like a no-brainer for tax-free retirement, but there's a limited amount you can contribute each year. So what happens if you have more money you want to shelter from taxes?
That's where those Roth conversions come into play. And remember, there are no longer any income limitations on conversions, so it's a strategy that's available to almost anyone.
But we talked about the 5-year rule. If someone converts a large sum to a Roth IRA, wouldn't they have to wait 5 years to access that money without penalty?
That's a common misconception. That 5-year rule, it only applies to the earnings on the converted amount, not the principal itself. So if you convert, say, $100,000 and it grows to $110,000, you can access that initial $100,000 immediately without penalty.
That's a crucial distinction.
Right.
So conversions can offer more immediate access than people might think. Now let's circle back to LARPs. We spent a lot of time talking about the mechanics of how they work, but how do they actually fit into a comprehensive retirement plan?
Think of a LARP as a potential complement to your other retirement savings vehicles. It's not meant to replace your 401k or IRA, but rather to offer an additional layer of, tax-advantaged growth and income potential.
So it's like the icing on the retirement cake.
There you go.
But I have to ask, are there any specific types of people for whom LARPs might be a particularly good fit?
There are a few scenarios where they can really shine. For example, if you're already maxing out your contributions to other retirement accounts and you're looking for additional tax-sheltered options, a LARP could be a good solution. Or if you have, say, a high-risk tolerance and you're comfortable with a longer-term investment horizon, the potential for tax-free growth within a LARP can be very appealing.
So it's about finding the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
It's not about everyone rushing out to get a LARP, but rather understanding when and for whom they might be a valuable addition to a retirement plan. Now, we talked about the potential drawbacks of traditional financial advisors, maybe being hesitant about some of these tax-free retirement strategies. If someone is interested in exploring these options further, what kind of advisor should they be looking for?
Look for someone who specializes in tax-efficient retirement planning. Ideally, they should be well-versed in strategies like those Roth conversions and LARPs and be able to, explain the complexities in a way that you understand.
It's like finding a specialist within a medical field.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go to a dermatologist for heart problems, right? You need someone who's an expert in the specific area you're dealing with. Now, before we wrap up this personalized planning section, is there any other advice you would give to our listener as they embark on this journey toward building a tax-free retirement?
I would emphasize the importance of staying informed and being adaptable. Tax laws and retirement planning strategies, they're constantly evolving. What works today might not work tomorrow. So stay curious, keep learning, and be prepared to adjust your plan as needed.
It's like navigating a ship through changing waters. You need to be constantly monitoring your course and adjusting your sails. But ultimately, the goal is to reach that destination of a comfortable and financially secure retirement, even if the journey takes a few unexpected turns. And speaking of unexpected turns, what about inheritances? We talked about how they can throw a wrench into your tax planning, but can inheritances ever actually help you build a tax-free retirement?
That's a great question. It might seem counterintuitive, but yes, inheritances can be leveraged strategically to enhance your tax-free retirement plan.
Okay, of all ears, how does that work?
Well, it depends on the type of inheritance. If you inherit a Roth IRA, for example, those distributions will be tax-free for you, just as they would have been for the original owner.
So it's like inheriting a tax-free haven.
Exactly. And even if you inherit a traditional IRA or a 401k, you have options. You could choose to take distributions over your lifetime, spreading out that tax burden. Or you could even convert those inherited funds to a Roth IRA, potentially minimizing taxes in the long run.
So even what seems like a potential tax headache can actually be an opportunity to further your tax-free retirement goals.
Precisely. It's all about understanding those rules and being strategic in how you manage those inherited assets.
This is all incredibly valuable information. But I think what I'm hearing is that building a tax-free retirement isn't just about picking the right accounts or strategies in isolation. It's about understanding how all these pieces fit together and creating a personalized puzzle that reflects your unique needs and goals.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's about taking that holistic view of your financial picture and developing a plan that minimizes your tax burden throughout your lifetime, not just in retirement.
And that's why working with a knowledgeable and trustworthy advisor is so crucial. Someone who can help you put all these pieces together and guide you through the complexities of the tax code.
Absolutely. Finding the right advisor, it's like finding a skilled navigator to help you chart your course. They can provide the expertise and support you need to reach your destination safely and efficiently.
This has been such an insightful conversation. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, but I also feel like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible when it comes to building a tax-free retirement.
It's true. There's always more to learn. And as those tax laws and retirement planning strategies continue to evolve, it's crucial to stay curious, informed, and adaptable.
Well, on that note, I think we've given our listener plenty to chew on for now. We've explored the foundational concepts, we've delved into those specific strategies, and we've even started personalizing these ideas to fit our listeners' unique situation.
Yeah, I'd say we've laid a really solid foundation for building a tax-free retirement plan. Now it's up to our listener to take this knowledge, continue their research, and start taking those first steps towards a more financially secure future.
And if they're feeling overwhelmed or unsure where to start, seeking guidance from a qualified advisor is always a wise move. Remember, you don't have to navigate this journey alone. There are experts out there who can provide the support and expertise you need to make informed decisions and create a plan that truly aligns with your goals.
Excellent point. Remember, knowledge is power. And when it comes to building a secure future, the more you know, the better equipped you'll be to make choices that empower you to live the retirement of your dreams.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive today. We hope this conversation has left you feeling informed, inspired, and ready to take charge of your financial future. Until next time, happy planning.
As we've been talking, I keep thinking back to that quote from Judge Leonard Hand about arranging your affairs to minimize taxes.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a simple statement, but it really gets to the heart of what we've been discussing today.
Absolutely.
It's not about being greedy or trying to cheat the system.
It's about being smart, and using the tools available to you to create the best possible outcome for yourself and your loved ones.
I completely agree. It's about taking control of your financial future and making conscious choices that really align with your values and goals. And I think one of the most powerful choices you can make is to prioritize that tax efficiency.
Yeah.
After all, every dollar you save in taxes is a dollar you can use to fund your dreams, support your family, or even give back to your community.
So true. And the great thing is you don't have to be a financial expert to start making tax-smart decisions.
Right.
We've talked about some pretty complex strategies today, like Roth conversions and LIRPs.
Yeah, we weren't deep.
But even small changes can make a big difference over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something as simple as contributing to a Roth IRA instead of a traditional IRA can have a significant impact on your tax liability in retirement.
And if you're already retired, just being mindful of how you withdraw money from your accounts can help you minimize those taxes. And avoid pushing yourself into a higher bracket.
Exactly.
It's all about being proactive
and
taking ownership of your financial well-being.
I love that.
And the sooner you start, the better.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, even if retirement feels far off, the choices you make today will really ripple through your financial future.
That's such an important point. Time is your greatest ally when it comes to building wealth and minimizing taxes.
Yeah.
The magic of compounding, it works best when you give it time to work its magic.
Yeah.
So even if you can only invest a small amount each month, starting early and staying consistent, it really will pay off in the long run.
It's like planting a seed and watching it grow into a mighty oak tree.
I love that analogy.
The earlier you plant that seed, the stronger and taller that tree will become.
Absolutely.
What about people who feel like they've missed the boat?
Yeah.
Maybe they're nearing retirement and haven't been as tax-savvy as they could have been. Is there still hope for them
There is.
to create a more tax-efficient retirement?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's never too late to make positive changes.
Okay.
Even if you're, just a few years away from retirement, there are still strategies you can implement to reduce your tax burden and potentially boost your retirement income.
Like what?
Well, you might consider something like a Roth conversion to shift some of your savings from a tax-deferred account to a tax-free account.
Okay.
Or you might explore strategies for minimizing taxes on your Social Security benefits.
So even if you feel like you're playing catch-up, there are still options available to you.
Absolutely.
The key is to seek guidance
Yeah.
from a knowledgeable advisor who can assess your individual situation
Right?
and create a personalized plan
Exactly.
that addresses your specific needs and goals.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we've given our listener a lot to think about today.
We have lots of information.
We've explored those foundational principles of tax-free retirement planning. We delved into those specific strategies.
We did.
And we even talked about how to personalize these concepts
Yeah.
to fit your unique situation.
Right.
What final thoughts would you leave our listener with as they embark on this journey toward building a more financially secure future?
I would encourage them to, embrace the power of knowledge and to never stop learning. The world of finance is constantly evolving,
Yeah.
and staying informed is essential for making informed decisions. Read books, listen to podcasts, attend seminars, whatever it takes to stay ahead of the curve.
Love it.
And remember, you don't have to go it alone. Seek guidance from trusted advisors, connect with like-minded individuals, build a support system that empowers you to make smart choices and achieve your financial goals.
Beautifully said. I couldn't agree more. Knowledge is power. And when it comes to building a bright financial future, the more you know, the more empowered you'll be to make choices that lead to a fulfilling and financially secure retirement.
Couldn't said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive today. We hope this conversation has sparked your curiosity, ignited your passion for financial well-being, and given you the tools and confidence to take control of your future. Until next time, happy planning.